that frown upside down. You have found your way to the Stuff Worth Trying podcast with your host, T-Boy, and the job.
Looking good, Italian job.
I'm feeling good, Tommy boy. How are you, brother?
I'm great. Been a great week getting back into the gloom. A lot of great stuff happening that I've seen across the nation. A lot of great stuff happening here in Greensboro with some new changing of the guards. We talked a little bit about that last week. Still getting some great feedback from RAWK 32, fired up for what's happening in Katy, and just doing really, really well. If I was any better, I'd be twins. How about you?
I hear you, man. This has been a good week. I've had the opportunity to post 4 days in a row. I plan on finishing out the trifecta, working through the weekend. And this weekend, we've got our Shield Lock retreat. So I'll be going to a cabin with three of my best friends to walk through our 8 blocks for the next year, things that we've covered in the past. But this is just a great opportunity for us to come together. I've had some time to work with some of the guys at the nation level. I found out I get to be T2 in Katy, Texas. So I'm going to follow your lead and be a trainer down at our Grow Ruck in December. Plenty of time to sign up for that one. And I'm hearing the rumor is they're going to have over 300 guys at that event, which is phenomenal. So pretty excited, very stoked about that. I've
heard 300 for the King Builder and Grow School, if I'm not mistaken, and at least 150 for the GTE portion. So yeah, you want to talk about FOMO? I'm like trying to burn the boats right now so I can get out there just to say that I was there. So if you wind up needing somebody to fill in and drive a tank in the middle of the Facebook live feed, let me know because I'm your guy. Beauty and I have qualifications to drive tanks on beaches.
Beautiful. I love it. What are we talking about today, TV? And what's the stuff we're trying for this week?
Yeah, it's funny because when I first was introduced to the idea, and once again, the PAX comes through and they just reach out and say, hey, we're doing this thing that we think we've seen great impact and we want to share it, which is exactly what we're about. And so out of the metro region, I got a note from WhatDid about one of his PAX members who was doing something pretty special. And so I started reading on. It's a band workout. And I thought, well, man, I'm always compelled to talk to anybody who wants to share things. And I hear a lot about band workouts. We've got one. And it's all well and good. Are we really doing something different? And then I continued to read when I got over my inner voice and found out why they're doing it. And so it's the why that I want to kind of bury a little bit, but it's the why they're doing it and the results that they're seeing that is worth trying. So without further ado, let's bring on WhatDid out of the metro area. WhatDid, welcome to Stuff Worth Trying. Quick name, Marama, and how'd you get your name?
Yeah, Tommy boy, glad to be here. Job, good to be here as well. So WhatDid 42, Brian McEwen out of the metro region. I'm our Metro Nantan. And I got my name because I'm from Delaware. And there's a very small, short clip from a movie in the 90s called Wayne's World. And in there, they're driving through, which takes all about a minute, if that. And they say, Delaware. And somehow that spun off to WhatDid. And because I can't find that backlash because the website blew up at one point. I don't know the rest of the history. It's folklore. But came out in 2014. A good buddy of mine, Taff, brought me out after the birth of my second daughter, and I've been fortunate to be out here since.
Outstanding. I appreciate you're definitely a man of honor because if I know plenty of men that if their website crashed would go back and just change their F3 name because there's no living proof. Yeah. So well
That's
done.
Good. Yep. Thank you.
And also well done for reaching out and connecting with us via Slack. Fellas, just a quick plug if you're listening, hashtag Stuff Worth Trying on the Nation Slack channel. We'll get right to Italian Job and myself and let us know what you're doing. That being said, that's exactly what you did. WhatDid. Well, that's going to get confusing. And that's exactly what you did. And like I said a moment ago, at first I wasn't fully on board, but then the next sentence locked me right in. So tell me a little bit about and set up our next guest who we're talking to today. What motivated you to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. What motivated me to reach out was, as Nantan of Metro, I'm doing my best to get to our 60 plus AOs across the region and connect with all the PACs and had an opportunity at one event to learn about the silver bullet workouts that we'll talk about today. And really, it is a workout designed to be high impact, but with a lot of focus on doing the exercises right, not lifting too much of heavy weight, not hurting your body any more than necessary, but focusing on your workout. So I had an opportunity to talk with DA here and a few other packs who will introduce DA here and learn about their band workout. And I said, well, I got to come check this out. I got to see what kind of workout this is, because I'm used to fast-paced, RAWK style, gear style workouts. This band workout is going to be a breeze. And let me tell you, I got outworked there by a number of these individuals, and I'll let DA share more. But it's a great workout focused on really leveraging bands and isolating, but doing it in a way that it's a full workout. So I'm glad to have been able to get to this workout and learn more about DA and his leadership and the Silver Bullets leadership of these core workouts.
I love it. Well, without further ado then, DA, welcome to Stuff Worth Trying. Real quick, name Rama, and how'd you get your name?
David Anderson, DA. I got my name from dread. My very first Silver Bullet visit, I showed up not having any idea what was coming. Found out real quickly I was to be given a nickname, and dread stood in front of me about 2 feet from my face, and he didn't move. And time passed, and it seemed like forever, but it might have been no more than 5 or 8 seconds. But when somebody's just in your face like that, you could see his wheels turning, but nothing was happening. And I could see all kinds of names considered, and fortunately, he rejected all of them, and without, I guess, having anything to offer, he just said DA. And so I've had a lot of people that ask me if I'm a lawyer, and I say, no, that's just my initials. So, nothing to be ashamed of or surprised at or uncomfortable taking home and sharing it with the wife.
That's right. You can say that in public all day long, and you'll get some respect just built in by what people assume it is. So
right.
I dig it. Well, tell us a little bit about the brainchild behind your workout.
Well, Silver Bullet in the last 10 years or so has gotten older and older. It's basically the same crowd, but we've just gotten older and older. And our knees have begun to wear out, and we're having more and more problems with shoulders and back and everything else. And so somewhere along the way, one of our guys who was going to an aerobics class offered the idea of trying bands. And I said, what the heck, why not? And so everybody got a band. Several of us got a couple extras because there's a couple of diehards in the group. And if it's not officially stamped by F3, they're not going to participate with their own money. So we started doing it. And what we have found is that it eliminates the need to carry around a kettlebell and run the risk, like some of those guys in core did, of popping themselves in the head. So it eliminates bringing a trunk full of bricks and then having to replace them. And you can adjust the resistance to your own requirements and needs. We also found that with bands, we had a lot more options that you find if you're just out in a normal F3 site. We have even, on occasion, taken our bands and wrapped it around a low tree limb to pull down on it. And there are very few weights, exercises you can get where you can pull down unless you do a pull-up, and then you're pulling, in many cases, too much weight. Mm-hmm. So pulling down, let's say 10 pounds or 15 or 20 pounds worth of resistance, 5 or 10 or 20 times is a lot better for you than maybe trying to do one pull-up. We also found that we could do smaller band resistance, but do more repetitions, and it would help us. We found too that everything was not arms and upper chest. we could do bands that would help our legs. One of the things that we do is lie on our back, one leg straight up, wrap the band around your foot, and then sink the leg perpendicular to your body over as far as you can go. And not everybody can go the same length, of course, same distance, but it just helps you. And then we bring it back across your body, keeping your shoulders parallel to the pavement. And you get a lot of range of motion. And over time, we found that the range of motion and the body's strength just continued to grow.
Now, DA, you mentioned Silver Bullet. What makes Silver Bullet different from the other AOs in the region? Is it an older crowd? And about what ages are we talking?
Oh, it's very old by your standards. We have 3 guys in our 80s. One is 84, 80, I'm 82, and there's one guy 81. And then we have several guys in their 70s. We have a couple of guys in their 60s, and we are visited from time to time by some in their 50s. And then when WhatDid shows up, we lower our age standards precipitously.
Now, WhatDid, you mentioned that you went out, you were expecting this thing to be a cakewalk, and you were surprised. So what did you find out when you got under the bands with the guys? What'd you experience? What was your experience?
It was first, the experience was overwhelmingly welcoming. These guys were prepared. DA mentioned extra bands. I had a selection to choose from. They're ready to let me work out because they knew what my face would look like going into this and how it would end. The isolation really works. The being intentional about your movement, how you're doing it, the amount of resistance you select, you get to really adjust that with a band versus if you go out with a 30, 40-pound kettlebell, that's all you're going to be able to sling. With the band, you get to tighten it up and make it more difficult. You can loosen it up and make it a little bit easier, go in further range of motion. So through that, I was able to get a more consistent beat down as I was working through it because, I started out strong. Of course, I had to make it as tough as possible because I didn't want to be judged negatively. And then I had to adjust it because I definitely went too far. It was then it was the beat down being inspired too. So everybody, when you cue, everybody has a movement that you can pretty much do better than most people. Like that's the one exercise you call to really let the packs know that you're on cue and you're running the show that day. So with all these exercises, the ones that DA was just describing about the leg stretch and the arm movements off of the tree, or we were using these parking ties that stop the cars from going further on the onto the sidewalk. They're the pavement kind of just safety stops, and we wrapped around that and trying to go left to right with your band really fatigued us, and you're able to switch easily. So the ability to go from what typically would be one big movement, so a kettlebell swing is one big movement, then you might move into another big movement like overhead presses. But with the band, you can actually start doing some more isolation arm work. So going from a tricep curl to an elbow extension and get that tri worked right and doing it with the right level of resistance versus taking what you could take. So that smoked me because I was actually doing, not that I don't do exercise properly, but I was doing exercises more correctly because I could isolate with the weight, and that helped to smoke me. And then the guys, so I forget, I think it was Money, DA, I can't remember, but he called planks. So here's this 80-year-old man calling planks, and everybody's dropping off. And he's sitting there like, come on, let's keep up. And he's just a master of a plank. And all these guys were masters of their own moves. So I got smoked by trying to keep up with what I would routinely say are simple exercises. And the reason why I can't keep up is I don't do some of the basics that need to be done to stay prepared on some of these exercises.
So is Silver Bullet, is Silver Bullet 0530 to 0615 workout?
It started that way. And as we aged and more of us retired, we moved it to 7 a.m.
Well done. Take full advantage of that victory.
Right.
So what's it like 45 minutes later having a Coors Light in the morning? Did I understand that correctly? No, serious question though. So before we hit record, you were sharing something that resonated with me. Earlier today, I was having a text conversation with Cadre DS from RAWK, as well as F3 and a former guest of this podcast. Put out a great message that just said, if it's weak, it will break. And he was talking about strengthening your lower back. And you were kind of riffing on joints and keeping those bulletproof as long as you can, and also being sympathetic to those who have had joints replaced from years of wear and tear. Talk a little bit about that in the sense of what's been surprising to you as far as outcomes since starting this band Beatdown.
Well, the first thing that I noticed was that most cues try to go through their exercise fast. Mm-hmm. Their count is very fast. And what I began to pick up from professionals, including people that I had to go to get fixed, was that an exercise is better done when it's done more slowly. And you run less risk of hurting the joint, particularly your back, when you're going slowly. And so as we got into the bands, we lowered our count. And instead of going 1, 2, 3, we would go 1, 2, 3. It's harder. We did it about the same length of time, but over time, we rapidly increased the number of repetitions.
So I'm interested, WhatDid mentioned everybody's got that one exercise that they're really good at. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask each guy on this call, starting with DA, what's your one exercise that you can just crush it? And some guys struggle keeping up.
Frankly, there are a lot of them that I have trouble with, and several that I don't. But the one that causes the most groans when I call it is protractor.
Oh, that's a good one.
And each time I call protractor, I try to tell them how long I'm going to do it. And when I get 2.5 minutes and out, I start hearing boots drop.
What's your go-to, the one that you just crush it?
I like to, I'm a big fan of the burpee. So I like to start a workout. I don't do it slaughter style, but I just got I consider a nice compliment last week from starting my workout out with burpees. And I don't enjoy those, but I do enjoy doing those more than others, I believe. So that's where I like to go to when I cue, and I need to make sure that the packs know that's my cue.
All right, TB, what's yours? What's your go-to?
My go-to favorite? That's tough, man.
What's the one you really excel at? How's that sound?
Like in cadence pickle pushers, 40 or 50 at a clip. just because I always feel like, you want to leave the AO better than you found it, right? So you get the guys out in the outfield of a baseball diamond and you just pickle pusher them to death. And not only have you improved your core strength, but you've aerated the field for the guys.
Yeah.
So it's nice. Always paying it forward. What about you, IJ?
Well, the one that I really enjoy calling because I succeed at it is the NER. And that goes back to, that's our backwards run. And the reason I do it is when I was in high school, our football coach used to make the DBs run the mile backwards, and we had to beat the linemen who were running forward. So we learned to run backwards fast for long distances. So, I might struggle a bit when everyone's doing a bear crawl, but as soon as we get to the next station and we NER, I pass everybody. That's my go-to. It's not one I call very often, but when it's called, I smile a bit.
Well, it ties right into the conversation too. I've run too many hills that I can remember backwards growing up playing soccer. And the whole idea was, if you want to be fast, you've got to improve all the leg muscles, not just the ones that you improve while you're running forwards.
I'd like to offer a comment, if I may.
Yeah,
Please do.
One of the things that we in Silver Bullet, particularly I, have noticed is that backward runs is not for everybody, because some of our older guys begin to have balance problems.
Mm-hmm.
And running backwards tends to make that exacerbate that risk a little bit. And so some of us, when the backward run is called, do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Modify.
Karaoke
Modify
or
as
whatever.
necessary.
Yep.
Yeah. Blindfolds work really well too with that. So
Not with us.
well, DA, the
And
question we
DA,
kind of
that-
like to go ahead. WhatDid?
Oh, well, you said something there, DA, which I'm surprised we didn't bring up earlier with the bands, which is the ability to maintain a balance. Because I know that was something when I was posting with you guys, we did simple single leg balance activity as well. And I think that was noticeable as we kind of use the bands and manage. And I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that besides avoiding the nerve.
Well, we have not used the bands for, I would say, balance issues in general. But what we do is more balance exercises than I think some others. Just standing on one foot, or standing on one foot and leaning down and putting your hands on the pavement with the other leg behind you, sticking up behind you. Those things I don't think are done by a lot, but as we have gotten older, it seems that our crowd appreciates that some. Another thing, if I could offer, is that I have picked up comments from exercise professionals that from time to time we try, each of us brings a little something new. And one that I picked up here recently is just the old-fashioned sit-up is not, this guy said, is not good for you, because in his mind, what happens is you strain when you raise your body, and if you're not careful, you're holding your breath and you're pushing blood up into your brain, which may not be good for you. And so what he showed me an alternative to that, which we have not had a chance to try it out yet. And just having mentioned it this past Monday, I did not get a whole lot of positive response from the crowd to consider something new there. But as with the bands, it seems to maybe it'll take a little while to grow.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
If it ain't new, it's dying. So I dig it. So let me ask you this. We've gotten into this habit of, and it's my favorite question to ask, because you really get to hear what motivated men to share the idea. And you just talked about bringing something new to the table. So starting with you, DA, why is, in just your opinion, tell us why this band concept of a beatdown is stuff worth trying.
It's a low impact opportunity to do something that is not generally done in other F3 groups. There are more range of motion with a band that provide resistance, from chest stretch to pull downs to what we call baggage lift, i.e. you're in an airplane and you're trying to put your luggage overhead. Well, how many of us have an exercise which you're stretching a band to do that? Very few of us. And so we just call it luggage lifter. And one guy laughed and said, yeah, the next time you're in there and you see somebody that hadn't been doing this, he'll drop his luggage on the woman beside him and you'll put yours in the overhead.
I dig it. The gifts keep on giving.
But it's a range of motion. It's low impact. And the number of motion options is relatively infinite, depending on how many times or how fertile your brain is to figure out a new way to use it. And also you can adjust the resistance to suit your own needs. These bands generally come in a package of 4. And so none of us have gotten above the 3rd level. The 4th level we pull cars with, but
don't give any guys new ideas about that.
Yeah.
I dig it.
That's why we are now using, and we don't use bands exclusively. We may use them only, perhaps, depending on the cue, 10% of the time.
Well, the level of other muscles and slow twitch muscles and things that it engages is a big benefit when we talk about longevity of our joints and bulletproofing things. And so that's certainly what I appreciate. And I also love the camaraderie. And I'm not going to say anything because I want to ask the Nantan the exact same question as the young guy that showed up that day, right? Who was surprised. And a Nantan, I think those two perspectives are important. Why would you say this is stuff worth trying?
Yeah, so from 2 different perspectives, I'll do it first as just a member of this beautiful group we call F3. Try something new. I had a great perspective of the packs there, not just because they were older and wiser and definitely better looking. But it's fun to get out in the morning and try something different than your standard AO. Drive that extra mile. Maybe it's even closer. But that was a great piece for me. Was enjoying the kinship of F3 with men that are looking at it from a different perspective, both age, but also kind of here's how I do it. Here's how we do it. This is what we do here, and learn something new. And then from the Nantan perspective, put my hat on. How do we ensure a vibrant F3 community? You can't target it for what we call in Metro just bat flippers, the fast runners, and the ones that don't care about the law, which there's really no law in F3. But my point, you can't focus just on them. You can't focus just on the middle. You got to look at the whole group, and I think it helps. As DA was saying, we have packs, we're all aging. What's going to be those workouts when men are in their, let's get past the 50s and talk about 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, this is, so from a Nantan perspective, we want to be able to serve all men. That doesn't have an age limit. And from that perspective, this workout really opened my eyes and gives me a lot of guidance on telling guys that are either recovering from IR or aging that here's a workout that you'll benefit from. So those are kind of those 2 different perspectives, Tommy boy.
Nice. I dig it. DA, are there back blasts floating out there that we could add into the show notes?
I don't know, other than what we already get from F3 on high.
Sure.
They might have blown up with the website too.
That's true.
I'll have to look, DA.
All right. Well, I'll do some trolling. If I find one, I'm going to add it to the show notes just to give guys whose ears are piqued by the conversation a resource to even start with. Of course, YouTube has a lot of great. Athlean X is a great example of a guy that knows his band workouts. That's my go-to if I'm kind of floundering for cue ideas. But Athlean X, I'll add that too. But I love just the idea of keeping it fresh. The way that F3 stays so great is because there's always new guys stepping up to try things out. Italian Job, anything from you? Final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you, men. WhatDid, thanks for bringing this to our attention. DA, thank you for the inspiration, for bringing something new to the table. A lot of men in F3 assume the only way to work out is to run as fast as you can for several miles or to lift as much weight as you can. And this is just another example of workouts that work for you, for the packs. And so thank you for leading that effort. Tommy boy, the only thing I want to kind of close out with is a quote that I just read recently in the Charlotte Observer. And I don't normally pull things from the Charlotte Observer, but this is from the Panthers interim head coach, Steve Wilks. Steve Wilks was a football coach who's kind of been around the league quite a bit, and he was an assistant coach for the Carolina Panthers, and the head coach was let go, and he stepped into the interim capacity. And he's from Charlotte, and he's from West Charlotte. He's from a impoverished area. And the reporters kept asking, hey, what does this mean to you? And he kept saying, this is about the team. It's not about me. This is about the team. But here was the quote that I gathered and that I grabbed onto that I really liked. I understand the torch that I carry. I hope I'm a great example to a lot of individuals to think that they too can make it in any capacity. So today's example from what DA was showing, what he was sharing, he understands the torch that he carries as a man that we highly respect, someone in his 80s, 82 years old. And he is the great example. He is the man that we look at and say, I can do that. I can be that next leader. I can step up. And DA is a perfect example of that. DA made it. And he's made something that works for him and for the guys that he works out with. And it's so many men just in the world, not F3, just everywhere, think that I'll never be able to do this. I can never step up to the table. I don't have what it takes. I'm not the tallest, the best looking, the strongest, the richest. And because of that, they fall to the back and say, I'll let someone else step up. But we all have something to bring to the table. We all can bear the torch. We can all clear the path and light the way for the next generation behind us. So DA, thank you for sharing with us today. WhatDid, thank you for bringing this to our eyes and our ears and to the Podpacks listeners. Tommy boy, that's what I have. I'm going to toss it back to you, and we'll close this thing out.
I dig it. And as a lifelong 49ers fan, I can still tip my hat to that quote. So thank you for sharing.
Hi.
Gentlemen, appreciate you coming on to Stuff Worth Trying. Packs that are listening, you can find us on Twitter at F3SWT. Once again, hashtag Stuff Worth Trying on the Slacks. Tell us what you're up to. The year, believe it or not, is winding down. IJ, I'm excited to hear what comes from your retreat. We're in the same mode, gearing up for some 8 blocks, some 1 word. I'm actually pretty certain I've discovered my word, or rather it's discovered me, and excited for all of those stories to start popping up on the various channels. WhatDid? Speaking of torches, thanks for carrying yours in Metro. I'm excited to see where that goes and where it goes next. Not that I'm rushing you out of a job or anything. And DA, thanks for carving out time and pouring into the younger generations, because that gives us motivation to try to light the next 43 feet if we're lucky enough to get to 82. And
yeah, you will.
And it sounds like bands are the way to get there. So
well, that helps.
I dig it. Well, gentlemen, if you're listening out there, be good at it. We'll catch you next week. Take care, fellas.
Thanks,
guys.
Thanks, guys.